What things did you do as a kid that you now realize is extremely weird? There were spiders and mice in my room which totally freaked me out, so every night before I went to sleep I'd whisper a report of what the weather was outside to encourage them to go outside rather than stay inside and bite me in my sleep. 8 rose petals. My grandfather told me they are edible. I still eat one when I go visit his grave. Edit. Thanks for my first award, kind stranger. I did not think this would resonate with so many people, and it's great to see all the different cuisine and recipe suggestions. Purple was my favorite color, but I didn't like the word, so I called it myrtleop. Found out that the air had germs in it and tried not to breathe too much. I used to host imaginary science shows where I would get questions from viewers that I had to answer. I don't remember a lot of the questions from my fake audience, but I remember trying to explain that glass actually could let air through, and that was the explanation to how we didn't suffocate when all the doors and windows were shut. Young me did not know a whole lot about ventilation. Edit. I also remembered something else now. My mom worked as a nurse, and she sometimes let me take syringes home with me. Both with and without needles. Don't really know how I feel about that nowadays, though. I sometimes took a bit of everything from our bathroom. Shower gels, shampoo, whatever fluid I could get my hands on basically, and I filled a mixture of this and put into a syringe. I then sneaked around the apartment and chose my victim, a poor plant of some kind. I injected a small dose of the magical elixir into the poor plant. Super happy this didn't develop some sort of mental disorder for me later. I used to eat ants. I didn't even like the taste, and I kept doing it. I used to steal things from my sister when she was mean to me, and then hide them by sewing them into her stuffed animals. She found out a few months ago and was really freaked out. I used to have science experiments in the bathroom sink, meaning, I'd go to the bathroom and lock the door. Once in, I'd make sure the sink drain was shut and then proceed to add every cleaner / chemical / shampoo etc. under the sink to the sink in hopes of a reaction. Never got one, but it also never stopped me from trying. In hindsight, I probably could have killed myself if I had mixed the wrong stuff. I obviously didn't. I did this too, then got a bunch of headaches and never did it again. Mind you, it did take a couple of headaches for me to realize me mixing random gave me headaches. Did I know for sure toothpaste was involved, maybe some iodine, probably some sort of rubbing alcohol type stuff, and shampoo. Also, while I stopped mixing bathroom items, I started mixing different foods. Then my friends and I would dare each other to try the mixtures. I'm starting to wonder how I survived childhood. The scientific method at work. Thank you for your research. I used to eat tissues as a kid. My mom found out one day and yelled at me to stop, as any sane parent would do, so I started eating them in secret, sneaking away with a tissue box to another room to eat a tissue or two, until one day when I was about 5 years old I had to go to the hospital. I had no idea what was going on. All I knew was that I had trouble breathing through my nose. Before my operation I was in the hospital and I overheard one of the nurses say that they just needed to remove the excess tissue in my nose. Naturally, I thought that the tissues I had eaten had started getting clogged up in my nose and I never ate a tissue again. I made the realization at 14 that it was muscle tissue in my nose and not the actual tissues I was eating. Edit. I'm glad to learn that I'm not alone with my strange habit. Also wanted to add that I saw some people mention getting tissues stuck in their ears, and I had a close call in primary school when I rolled a piece of paper into a really small ball and put it into my ear. If you haven't realized, I wasn't the brightest child, had to go to the medical bay to get it taken out with tweezers. That was a roller coaster. I made the realization at school in science class and just audibly said holy fuck. One person asked me what was wrong. I never told them. When I was around 4 to 5 years old, I remember I used to sneak downstairs very early in the morning and search for any cups with that ½ inch of cold sweet sugary coffee in, and drink them before anyone got up. Guess I may have been the youngest caffeine addict in Britain. Edit. Back in the day my parents drank camp coffee. I don't know if this is available outside of the UK, but it's essentially a thick coffee syrup which you use with hot water and milk. I loved it, so much better than instant. Double edit. The hazards of doing this were higher than you might think. Both my parents were heavy smokers, so there was a high probability of there being a dog end cigarette butt dropped in a cup somewhere. I wasn't that thirsty. A few years ago, I was visiting my aunt and uncle, and they had some old film from the 80s of my extended family on a camping trip. There was a full playset there including a trampoline, and my mother was filming my cousins and I playing. I'm not sure why my aunt and uncle had the tape instead of my mother, but whatever. I was about 3 at the time, and my mother panned the camera away from my cousins playing on a swing set towards me on the trampoline. Except I was lying face down on the trampoline, full on thrusting my hips into it as hard as I could. Now, I don't specifically remember doing that, but I have a pretty good idea of how my little mind worked at the time. I'm certain that I was just trying to see if I could build up enough force to lift myself off the trampoline mat, or flip myself over. Still, not exactly the best thing to be watching with your aunt and uncle, who threatened to save it and show at my wedding. Joke's on them, I pocketed the tape when they weren't looking, and now we wait to find out if they had multiple copies. Not me, but my partner used to keep kiwis, the fruits, as pets. He would name them and take care of them, until his mom took them to blend into a smoothie. That was a rude awakening for him. Glad you clarified that his mom wasn't blending New Zealanders into smoothies. I used to waste a ton of water by turning on the shower and lay on the floor next to it with a towel over my body and fall asleep with a tiny bit of water splashing on my face. I used to imagine I was in a cave and it was raining outside for some reason. Ah, good times. My parents' shower had a seat in it and I would always hide under it to get out of the rain. Yes, I did this, too, and would create complex scenarios of why I was stranded in the rain. I, a girl, used to sit back to front on the toilet to pee. My reasoning was that way it sounded like my dad peeing and then the monsters wouldn't try to grab me. Childhood anxiety is wild. Then you have a place for your comic books and your chocolate milk. In grade 1 we would sit in a group on the floor in front of the teacher while she read us stories. I would sit at the back of the group against the wall and pull my pants halfway down my bum. I liked feeling the cool ground/wall against my bare butt. Here's a meme for you to enjoy while you're subscribing to our channel. We'll have new videos for you every day, so stay tuned. I didn't know that people could see my eyes move and used to have my head in one direction and look with my eyes somewhere else. It wasn't before a girl saw me looking at her and said, "What are you looking at?" I figured that out. I did this in school and was looking at a teacher in an inappropriate place and she called me out in front of the whole class. I hate child me. When I was a wee lad I would wander about the house naked and pull back me foreskin to show visitors. I don't do that anymore though. Why not? Because he doesn't get visitors anymore. When I was in elementary school I would use one hand to cover my butt when I showered because I was afraid that a monster would warp through the bathroom wall and attack my Several friends and myself had a fascination with writing in code. We had little pocket notebooks full of codes and deciphering instructions, also in code, and would write volumes of notes between us in code. Notebooks got confiscated by a teacher. We wouldn't tell her how to decode. She tried to get us in trouble. Parents thought it was hilarious. I'm almost 60 and I still have one of these notebooks around somewhere. Wearing Velcro strap shoes so tight they'd probably cut off the circulation in my feet because I was worried my shoes would fall off. I used to eat butter straight out the tub too. My 5-year-old niece has started doing it. Maybe it's a family trait. I used to eat mechanical pencil lead. No idea how I got into that habit, but I think I enjoyed the crunchiness of it. Did it for a little while, but showed a classmate and she immediately went to the teacher who then called my mom who scolded me and told me to stop. Goodbye 0.7mm, you will be missed. Snitches ruin all the fun. I would walk out the bathroom after taking a and spread my cheeks to whoever was in the living room and ask, "Is my butt clean?" One time it was the guy cleaning our carpet. Imagine cleaning some person's carpet and out of nowhere this gremlin of a child hobbles out of the bathroom, spreads his cheeks, and asks you to tell him how clean his is. Running any lollipop or sucker I ate under the faucet water after every lick because somehow it tasted better after being rinsed. Lol. It does taste better. I never did it on purpose, but if I dropped my lollipop on the ground I would wash it and it tasted great. I would only sit on the toilet with the shower cap on my head. I once took a pic on my dad's phone because I thought it would be funny. I was 7 and I didn't know what pics were or what pedophilia was or anything. My dad never brought it up. Update. I asked my dad about it. He doesn't remember it apparently. Thoughtful face. Let's get daddy in jail, said the cunning child to himself. He would sound insane trying to defend himself in court. No, Your Honor, I did not look at It's my own child's photo. No, not like that either. Had an imaginary friend that I would make bets with, that I was guaranteed to win. The prize being ludicrous amounts of imaginary money. Hey Joe, I bet you $1 I can hold my breath for 3 seconds. God, I was rich back then. I also made dumb bets. But mine were always against the devil for my eternal soul. I lost the thing around age 11 when I put it up against me catching my bouncy ball 10 times in a row. Feels nice knowing I'm going to hell for being clumsy. Edit, can I trade Reddit silver for my soul back plaza? saying some gibberish all the time and thinking that it is probably meaningful in some languages. I felt smart as hell. I used to make random noise and word combinations and get into really weird contorted poses to be the only one to ever do this. That sounds familiar. I used to touch random things at unusual spots wherever I went, like the bottom of a railing or one single leaf on a cloverfield because, who knows, maybe I was the first to ever touch this. Used to piss in bottles, like outside, where, you know, I could have just pissed anywhere. I once got busted for breaking a pane of plastic in a neighbor's shed because I left my distinctive calling card at the scene. Fui you, I piss in urinals and toilets now. I only piss in bottles when robbing the National Mint. For much of second grade, for some reason, my parents let me pack my own lunch. I had two sandwiches of choice. One was what I called a triple butter sandwich. Peanut butter, apple butter, and butter. A little strange, but okay. The other was a lettuce sandwich. White bread, mayo, and a few leaves of iceberg lettuce. I have no idea how they let me eat that for most of a full school year. Edit. Jesus Christ, this got a lot more replies than I thought it would. I have no regrets about the triple butter sandwich. Apple butter, if you've never had it, is pretty delicious, and I'm relatively sure I put butter in there just because it made sense, because they were all butter, right? But it wasn't bad. Apple butter, to answer the frequent question, is sort of like an apple jam. Basically imagine the process for making applesauce, but you cook it down longer and it gets all caramelized and concentrated. It's great. It's more letting your kid make a sandwich from a little bit of lettuce that I question. I appreciate a lot of people saying it was good parenting because they were making sure I had something I'd eat. But you're being charitable. It was more that they weren't great parents and probably didn't pay attention. I wasn't a fussy kid at all. Unless you tried feeding me asparagus, I'd eat pretty much anything. And to the concerned Redditor, who reached out to Reddit about me, that's kind of hilarious. When I was a kid, in the 80s, I had very strict teachers. Any form of back-talking or, God forbid, swearing, would get you a quick slap and a fast march to the head teacher's office to explain yourself. My teacher once sat me down for a talk, as happened fairly often, which was basically her just berating me. In the middle of this, she suddenly stopped and told me I needed to keep my eyes under control, because I had this terrible nervous habit of twitching my eyes when she was talking to me. In actual fact, I was tracing out imaginary swear words with my eyes. Basically, drawing out things like piss off and shut up, tracing the letters with my eyes as if they were right in front of her face. I didn't realize she could see my eye movements. I mean, I don't know why. As an adult, it's obvious that my eyes were darting all over the place and looking crazy, but child me thought that it was subtle enough that it was unnoticeable, and that I was being super sneaky. As soon as I realized she could see it, I stopped. But looking back, probably the funniest part to me now is how much it must have unnerved her, and she never did know the reason for it. To her, I must have just been the weird kid with the crazy eyes. Oh my goodness, I just tried this with my eyes. I'm sorry, but you must have looked insane. This is so funny. Everyone who read this sat here trying it and we all spelling fuck off, haha. I used to like chewing sponges. Bath sponges. I'd get them wet, wring them out a bit, then put the whole thing or as much as possible in there and just chew. Pooped my pants, then picked the poop out of my underwear and hid it under the sofa so my parents wouldn't know. This makes me not want kids. Everything makes me not want kids. When I was around 5, I would basically act like a train and follow the lines on the playground whilst also using my hands as those little rail things on the wheels, coupling rods. I would also look directly up when it was cold and use my mouth as a chimney. Honestly, it must have looked like I was insane.